Welcome to the Grief Pie Podcast. This is a show where we motivate and inspire men to share their grief one bite at a time. Thanks for tuning in and adding your voice and stories so that we can all heal and find joy together. Now please welcome your hosts, Gary Scott and James Rafter.
Hey guys, it's Gare, and welcome to another episode of Grief Pie. Two guys sharing grief one bite at a time. And with me, of course, is the number one podcast sidekick in the world. We don't even know which direction we're pointing to because we could be anywhere. Is my buddy Jim Rafter. And today's episode, like many will be, because it's such a deep topic, is family and kind of where the family has gone in many different directions since our spouses have passed. Again, Jim's just over a year out. I'm 9 years out, so we're a little bit different on where we are with family. But Jim, we have similar age kids, as we talked about. Our kids know each other, went to school together, went to sports together, stuff like that. So, what's going on with your three amazing children and yourself at this stage?
Yeah, and to your point, yes, I'm catching up. So, you kids are the same age, but we still have our first grandchildren, right, which is huge. And for us, because you and I are all about family, and you're lucky you've got a beautiful bride. You were able to remarry. I'm not in that space yet, so I don't quite know where to go with that. So today was my granddaughter's first birthday. And as everyone knows, if they've listened to our little chats, I've been traveling around the country the last 30 days, ending up here in Sacramento for baby A's first birthday. Brought in my daughter, her husband, my oldest son, his girlfriend, and then again David and Denise, who have baby A, Adrian Page. And so it was really it's been a journey for me to get here. And again, I threw up all over Christmas. So whether or not I got into today or yesterday, because we had the big party and it was really amazing. I'm really lucky. Both of my sons have amazing friends, and now they're all, hitting that 30 mark, which makes us super freaking old, right?
Yeah.
And all these guys that were just goofballs, freshman year, fraternity guys out of Sac State, Stingers up, and they're all adults now. They're all married and cute wives and, pregnant bellies and babies. And it was really amazing Sunday. And I didn't know how I was going to feel because this is the first time I had to do it solo on my own. Normally, Jen to everybody was Mama Bear. All the boys' friends and girlfriends love Jennifer, and again, I was just fodder for the fire. And it was really interesting. And the only saving point is I love my in-laws, Denise's mom and dad, moms and dad. And I just love them to death, and which is really rare. And it's really fun to have that interaction with, two people that were gonna, raise kids together and stuff. So And I had that
So
with,
how many people were there for this shindig, for this
oh
big?
my God. So the house is like 900 square foot. We've had it
Wow.
all full. We had it all full, man.
Wall to wall bodies.
It was. Uh, it was an amazing time. And I'll just go back and say I was worried. Again, I had, you know, how I get with anticipation and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
But we all, so James, Brenda, myself, Sam and Corey and baby Scarlett stayed at the Airbnb together, which was a little stressful, but I let myself go and just, and Finnegan, of course. And it ended up being really, really good. And
You guys, I mean, obviously, there's a big hole there. There's a person missing at the table, and there's, Mama Bear isn't there for all the shenanigans and to keep all these knuckleheads under control and smack their heads together when they get out of line. So, I mean, there's an elephant in the room, right? I mean, do you guys talk about it? I remember you were telling me when you went to your friend's, house, and one of your buddies went and got a plate and made a plate, for Jen. Went and actually put some food on there, set a plate for her at the table. Um, so you guys are just over a year. It's super, super raw. Do you mention, hey, I wish mom was here, or it's too bad mom wasn't here, or you just leave it alone?
no, it's always the double hugs. It's almost like I get a hug for me and then a hug for, oh my God, I miss Jen. Like a lot of, she was very instrumental in getting a couple of the couple of the couples married, right? Where she would, like, you marry her now, or I'm telling her to leave you. You know, Jen,
And when
right?
Jen said something, you did it, by the way, just in case you were curious.
Now they're all pregnant or have babies, and so it's all the double hugs. It was good. It was hard for me because I'm not Jen in that, I'm not
No,
Mama Bear, right?
no.
Uh what
You're
about you?
barely Bear. You're more
I'm
like
not even
Yogi. You're more like Yogi or Boo
I,
Boo Bear.
I'm I'm Boo Boo.
Well, you're at that just over the year stage. When I was just over the year stage with my kids, wow. It's completely different than what you're doing. I mean, you are so blessed that you're able to have so much time with your kids. I mean, you've been with them a lot in the 14 months, 18 months, whatever, 16 months amount of time that Jen's been gone. And with me, Zachy was away. He was still in the Air Force, so he was in, I think, Missouri at that time. And Chris, although he was living here with me, like I said, I had bailed. So Chris and I's relationship was very strained. And you guys are all kumbaya, man. It's pretty amazing. I mean, is it on the inside as it seems on the outside?
It's not always kumbaya. We're lucky to have Samantha who runs interference for
It takes a
everything.
woman. It takes a woman to control all these animals.
And David has been womanized.
Poor bastard.
James is still a little bit of a work in progress, but has a very strong partner in Brenda, and so she can light him up or just walk away from him, and then he knows that he just, damn it. No, there's, I'm lucky, and Chris has an amazing family and stuff, right? So he's, working through all that, and with Bree and Jet and stuff like that, right? So
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
it was even just today, because I had asked him, I said, dude, we're gonna do a family podcast, one of many. I mean, this is a subject that there's so many layers, to the kids and the family and such. But I mean, for this episode, basically kind of where we are now type of thing. I mean, literally today I was talking to him. We were supposed to have a business meeting for the property management company, and he couldn't make it because Bree's father passed. So there's a lot
Oh
going
yeah.
on there. And go, hey man, would you want to get on one of these podcasts? He's like, no. He's like, I'm still not ready to share. And this is 9 years, right? And that's how bad I screwed this up. So your first year has been really, really good, honestly. I mean, I've talked to some other people and some other friends. They've lost family, in that time period. And so I'm proud of you. I mean, even your brother, whose name we shall not mention, Voldemort, but
That's right.
right. But I mean, you've really your family's rallied around. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and again, it goes all the way back to just Jen set that foundation. She was such a tough individual, super loving. Again, it was never always peaches and creams. Her and James butted heads a lot, especially through high school and into early college years. Uh, so it wasn't always easy peasy, but and we talked about this a couple of podcasts ago, is we get into that weird space of a long death versus a quick unknown death. And we went through a long illness and death, which gave them, um, opportunities to heal or come to terms, so that when she finally died, and I hate saying this, but it's always when you go through a long death, right? It's that relief, that they're finally out of the pain. It's really hard, and the kids probably took that harder than I did, especially James.
Do you think that the kids are being straight with you about where they are with their feelings and their world right now without mom? I mean, do you think when you're around, it's like, yeah, we kind of got to keep up a good face for dad because he's such a shit show, and we don't want him throwing up on our carpet. Do you think they're holding something? I know Chris did, and I still wonder about Zach. Zach and I, we've touched on it more, but since he wasn't here, I never really was sure how Zachy was doing. And even to this day, I'm not. 9 years later, what do you think? You think the kids are being straight with you, or are they holding stuff back to not open up on you?
Yeah, I think they've got enough going on their own now. Again, we've got two babies that we're raising now. Had so much fun with the twin cousins.
Yeah.
Um, I bought them matching outfits at Cracker Barrel when I was traveling through somewhere. I don't know. I and then we had,
I hope it doesn't say Cracker Barrel. Doesn't say Cracker Barrel. Are they like
no, it
overalls that
does.
say
It's like a
Cracker?
big logo. Yeah, I'm getting royalties from Cracker Barrel right now.
You're pimping out your babies already? Dude,
Oh,
that's brilliant. No, I give you kudos, man. The kids are I should be pimping out. I should get tattoo on Jet's head of Valley Peak
any
Property
any
Management because he's so freaking cute.
any port in the store, man. I'll take whatever. I got no shame.
I mean, when you guys talking and stuff like that, so you just think that they're like, we got this. Mom was sick. She was sick for a long time. We worked our way through it. We've touched through the grief, and now we're just like, hey, life goes on. Death happens, and you just move on. We got our babies. We got careers and stuff like that. I mean, do you think that's where they are?
For the most part, I think David and Samantha more so than James. I actually had a really good conversation with James's girlfriend Brenda. We went out for a beer and an appetizer while they were all working. Apparently, I don't work anymore. Um,
You're on the
We need,
road, so how
we
could you
need this
work, dude?
podcast to take off, people.
How could you work when you're on the road all day, traveling around the country like some hobo vagabond? I
Printers
mean,
plugged
get
into.
get your shit together, buddy. You got a job. You got a career.
My career is talking, and I
Yeah,
can do that anywhere I want.
that's true.
So,
That's true.
uh, and I think James is is in a way better place than he has been, and he's working through it. And Brenda grounds him a lot. So I had a really good conversation with her about that. Um,
And
so
the kids were there too, right? I mean, they got to come see mom. They got to say goodbye. They got to do the whole thing, right?
yeah, so James's birthday is August 12th. I probably shouldn't say this out loud on, but his birthday is in August. And so he had come out with Brenda. So Jen got to meet Brenda and go shopping and have some fun while Jen was still kind of mobile. And, then he flies home, and 3 or 4 days later, Jen's in bed for the final few weeks of her life. And he's like, how did that happen? She was fine a week ago, and trying to explain that, hey man, I can't tell you. I don't have and that's the hard part, right? With dealing with kids. And I'll throw this back to you here as I finish my thought. The kids always want us to come back with the answers and an explanation. And we didn't have it. Didn't have it. We were running by the seat of our pants ourselves, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's where I really, man, I mean, I think that's where I really screwed up. And I think that's where even today, Christian and I still just have that gap when it comes to his mom. I think, like I said, Zach flew back in. He wanted to see the body. We went up and saw it. We talked about that on different podcasts and stuff. Chris didn't. I just, I try to talk about it more, especially since what's happened with his father-in-law. And I
Yeah.
think I think that's brought it home a lot, because he now is kind of like, all right, well, I've got to grab this bull by the horn. I've got to be there for Bree. I've got to support her while she's trying to figure out to take care of her dad. What's the best way to do it? What his wishes would have been, and things like that, which is our planning episode, which is
Yep.
huge. Um, and I think he now is kind of seeing, I don't want to say the stress of the passing, but it hit him differently because he was in Europe when she passed. And I had to call and say, dude, you got to come home. Mom's died. That's a whole nother podcast. But I think now that he's like living with a hands-on situation, right? You see things a little bit differently. And, he's 10 years older, basically, right? So, but yeah, your kids are doing really well. I mean, if they're being straight with you, and that is how they're feeling, and this is how they're moving on, that's really healthy. And it maybe that's a secret, is like have them there more involved during the sickness, which most people don't, right? I mean, I didn't. I think most people want to keep that away from the kids, right? Keep the kids away from the sickness, keep them away from the pain and what's the day-to-day shit show that you're living, right? Which you did. And maybe because your kids were there a little bit more, it's helped them.
100%. Because I have to say 100% at some
At least
point.
once. At least once. That's your
Yeah,
tagline.
again, I'm a sharer. Exactly. We've talked about this. If I'm thinking something, it because it's on my sleeve, and I try to impart that on my children. Good, bad, or indifferent, whatever. I'm always honest and upfront. Um, and I guess one of my things, my advice to folks listening, as we talk about this, and hopefully we're helping people. with our chit chats, but don't hide stuff. I mean, you can't shelter maybe a really young child, but if you've got teenagers, young adults that are, experiencing losing, a mom or a dad or someone, you can't shelter them. You can't do it. You've got to be
Yeah,
honest.
and I think that's where I think I really made a mistake. I mean, I know for sure with my diagnosis of cancer, I sheltered him really hard, kept everything away from him, and I think that was really that's kind of was a mistake. But definitely with April, I think I should have got them more involved. Obviously, Zachy wasn't here. I couldn't. I started to get Chris more involved towards the end, saying, come to some of these doctor's appointments with me, you know, because he came back. He left school to come back and help with the business when mom got sick. And so I'm like, get more engaged with that because I think it's important. And he did a little bit. And I think that helped. But I think I should have done more. I think I should have kept Zachy involved more. I think I should have kept Chris involved more. And maybe that would have kind of set them up for kind of how bad things were. Because I don't think their mom was tough as nails, right? It's like Jen. It's like, mom's not going anywhere. We got this. This is, Jen was, man, Jen was just beaten to death. I mean, that poor kid, it was really tough. You could physically see her going, but even towards the end, April really kind of held up. And I think looking at her, you didn't realize how sick she was. And maybe that kind of took them down a road of, well, mom's going to be fine. And I don't know. Maybe that was another of my 100 mistakes there.
Well, we should never beat each other up, beat ourselves up on what was a mistake, what wasn't a mistake, right? We only did what we could do. I was really lucky because I had Samantha, who's one of the strongest women I've ever met in my life, other than Jen. And she really took care of me. She was there for a lot of really bad moments. Um, Also fun moments when we put the apartment together when Jen got out of the hospital in April and we got the apartment in La Jolla, and Samantha bought, all the furniture and decorated it for
Is
mom.
were Jen's mom and dad still alive?
Her mom.
Her mom.
So
Is she
yeah,
close? Is she
Harold,
close with her mom?
they had finally reconciled. There had been some issues. But yeah, she had, when Jen got sick, they all reconciled, and Jackie was very, very good at coming down and helping out on, chemo runs and different things.
That's
Um,
awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
that's awesome.
So, from that aspect, the family, our family really understood what was going on with Jen. Again, it was a long, protruded, drawn out, you know, crappy death.
They beat the living snot out of that young lady. That's for sure. I know they beat April. I mean, when they originally started with the chemo, my God, within 6 months, I thought she was dead. She was a skeleton. Then they realized that wasn't working, so they took her off and put her on something that a little less abusive, and so she rebounded, which was helpful. Her family was not helpful. I mean, if anything, her mom was a negative influence during this
Okay.
period. Give her mom a little bit of credit. She was a cancer survivor. Her son was suffering at the same time of a different kind of cancer, and then April got sick. So she was carrying a lot, but
Oh,
still,
it's
she
harsh.
was a very negative, not positive influence on the family and on April, especially on me. But so that it's tough, but when you bring it back to the kids, I guess to wrap that up with the kids is that just keep them in the loop. Don't hide them. Don't try to protect them. Trust that children can deal with this. Um, Give them time with their parent who's sick, um, because you're gonna regret not giving them that time. You know.
And and I think it's really important to tell people this is that you can use your kids as your support as well, because they're willing to do it if you give them that opportunity and you show some vulnerability. Um, right? Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
if
And
you're trying to
that's
always
where
hide,
I'm really kicking myself with Chris. You know, I definitely made that mistake with Christopher. I think because he was here, I think he wanted to take on more, could have taken on more. Felt that I kept him away from that. And so that that's a painful thing, you know, and you can't get that back. Like you said, you can't flog yourself to death over it. You can pay someone to flog you, but that's a whole different deal. But you can't beat yourself up over what you may or may not have done because there's
I just
no.
had flashbacks of leather and whips.
Was that your time in the Southeast Asia or no? No, because we have been sworn to not speak of that era ever again. That time is past and I think some laws were broken, some
Talk to me about
international,
flogging.
there might have been some international treaties that were actually broken during your time in Southeast Asia.
You brought up flogging. I did not bring up
I'm
flogging.
just saying, you said
I just
don't have
I
someone beat
just had the
you.
visual of
You
my
literally
brother.
said don't have anyone beat you. And I'm saying that's not always a bad thing. I don't I,
Let's never mind. I'm not even gonna say it. So
so so listen, bottom line for me is I can't get the time back. I made a lot of mistakes with my boys. I made some mistake with the family. Um, 9 years later, I'm still paying for it. I wish there was some sort of way to fix it. And I think just talking about it more, um, you absolutely have been doing a great job, whether you know it or not, or you're even partially responsible for it, which may or may not be.
I'm
But
on a sled with a bunch of huskies going through the Yukon and just holding on, hoping that I don't fly off a glacier or
and a
something.
throw up bag
And the
attached.
throw up bag. I, but
So
yeah,
you've got birthdays coming up with the kids, right? So you get more time with them. You got baby A, you got baby Scarlet. Things are good with this. And as you guys are moving forward, I mean, it seems like the kids are coming through this and you guys are communicating really well. I mean, you think you're over the hump this early?
so I think that my kids are very, very close. And that's lucky for me, right? And we've always had a very close family. I mean, we're massive, huge family. And but my three kids are extremely close. I mean, they probably talk about stuff that I have no idea, but they love their cousins. And they're all about family, and I think that is a big part of it, is to make sure they're coming together. I don't know, Chris and Zach, how close they are. Do they talk? Do they
Do you
interact?
think your kids have been talking about all this stuff behind your back to
Yes.
amongst
Yeah.
themselves? Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Yep.
I'll talk to Chris and I'll say, "Hey, man, did you know this and that about Zach?" He goes, "Yeah, talk to Zach all the time." I'm like, "Oh, right on, cool. I did not know that." So I think they do. Obviously, they do. I mean, they have each other. They're very close. They're only 16 months apart in age. They grew up really strong. You know, Chris was always a really good brother. He wasn't like the big brother who said, "No, don't you can't hang around with us." Zach, he just looked up to his brother so much, and Zach, even today, you know, emulates his brother as far as investing and you know the things that they're both going after and stuff like that. So I think they were strong for each other. I'm not sure how much they communicated during um when April was going through the shit. You know, I don't know if they. I'll have to ask them because I'm curious. Hey, where were you guys during that year as far as what was going on. Zach, he just was in the service,
Yeah.
and as a grunt, in boot camp and stuff. So it's like, I don't know how much time he had to deal with it, and he may not have even thought his mom was that bad, so he
Right.
didn't dwell on it. Um, Anywho, so I guess the message is, listen, keep the kids involved. Don't hide anything from the children. Um, if they're young,
Hiding's
judge
bad.
it, huh?
Hiding is bad.
Hiding is bad. Stranger danger. So your kids were older when this went down. My kids were younger, but they were still old
Oh,
enough to
that's
know.
true.
They're 18
Yep.
and 20. But if you've got little ones, 5, 6, 7, I have no clue. I have no clue what to do with that. But if your kids are older, definitely keep them involved, get them exposed to it. Um, you'll definitely be happy you did down the road.
Yeah, and you'll make stronger adults because they're going to have to go through this at some point when we all die. And I want them to know to take care of my ass.
Well, you were
They can
smart. I
die.
mean, another, again, a promo for our planning episode, which everyone needs to listen to our planning episode. That's a promo. Or what do they call that in the business?
Promo, yeah, no,
Yeah,
yep, precursor,
whatever,
promo,
commercial.
whatever you want.
But the planning is really important. So, all right. Well, listen, I know this is a shorter episode, but we got like 5 million episodes on family. There's so many different areas we can cover on this. But I'm glad that you guys are well. I'm glad that your kids are doing so well. I love you. I love your family. You've got great kids. And it sounds like they're doing well, and that's important.
And I'm praying. I know that Chris will come around, especially I think as he goes through adulting with having to deal with Bree and learning how to take care of someone and not feel like he's a victim. I don't know if he feels like he's a victim or not, but that's, where he's got to be the adult in the room. And I think you guys will come out of that where he's going to go, Dad, how the hell did you do this? Right. And I don't know what to tell Bree, and she's sad. And right. So I think you guys are going to head down an awesome path. It just takes time on some of our little ones take a little more than the other ones to
Yeah.
find their path. So
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
ever be discouraged, anybody. Stay faithful, stay on course. Don't give up. Everyone comes around. So
Yeah. And again, there's no playbook. I've made mistakes. I've also done some things really well.
yeah,
Jim, you've done a lot of things really well. But you can't, especially when you're in the soup, you can't worry about what other people are thinking about what's going on. Just circle those wagons, keep the family close, um, keep everyone involved, ask for help. And, if you make mistakes, it's just going to happen. So you just have to hey, shit happens. What are you going to do? But anyways, my brother, another good episode, plenty more to come. We got tons and tons of stuff. I know you've got lots going on in Bakersfield.
stop it.
And, thanks everybody for listening in. And I can't wait to see you on the next episode. And Jimmy, love you, man. Can't wait to do another one.
As always, love you. Great episode, great chat. I always feel good seeing your smile and talking to y'all. So, all right, folks, we love y'all. Keep listening. We're here to help. If you want to reach out, we're here. We'd love to hear your stories.
Sharing is caring. Bring it on. All right. Love you guys.
What is that?
Thanks, Jimmy.
I don't even know how to do that. All right. Love you.
See ya.
This has been our weekly broadcast, brought to you by the Grief Podcast Studios. We can be found in audio-only format on all the popular podcasting platforms. Remember to like and subscribe and to hit that alert button so you don't miss any episodes. Thanks again, and until next time, treat yourself gently. And don't bite off more than you can chew. Healing is a process.